Highsmith. He's like, absolutely not. Absolutely
Dude,
not.
what did we think then? Because they had to make that move. How bad they were offensively and defensively, and the only person other than Book that you're gonna get anything for on that team was KD. So in his case, they had to make that move. They had to go out and say, dude, you can go on. And here's the thing that me and Joe love about this. So where'd they go? Oh, I know. To a damn state that they ain't got no damn stadium contact. How about that? How about that?
There was a back and forth. Boogie Cousins a few days ago regarding the report the Suns had multiple fistfights in the locker room. Kevin Durant says, I have to contest this 94-footer. This some bull jive to throw on us. Yeah, we were trash this year, ha ha ha, but we...
It's Verizon's Summer Bundle. All new and existing customers get iPhone 16 Pro, Apple Watch Series 10, and iPad. All three on us. That's up to $2,000 in value, only on Verizon.
Playoff team is very difficult. It's not an easy thing that every player thrown into the fire at that age can just automatically take it and own it like that.
Yeah, and some people are saying, Şengün's the best offensive player that Jalen Green's ever played with. Okay, and I like Şengün. He was an all-star this year. I'm a fan of his game. He's not a world beater on offense right now. He's still growing in his own right. There's going to be nobody on that team in Houston besides Kevin Durant that even comes close to creating the amount of gravity that Devin Booker is going to create for Jalen Green. I think, beyond just the playoff dropping, right, and understanding the context if he was being put in a tough situation, and that he hasn't played around a lot of offensive talent, Steven, a big critique that I've seen and that honestly I feel of Jalen Green is that it doesn't seem like he's continuing this upward trajectory over his 4 years in the league. It feels like, at least statistically, when you look at some of his game, he hasn't shored up a lot of these big weaknesses and there isn't like a big growth. Watching him develop over the last couple of years, obviously looking at it in a different context than what we're looking at it now, would you say that Jalen Green has improved as a player since his rookie year?
Yes.
And
100%.
how? In what way?
Because of what he's been asked to do. And this is why context matters. You look at the Houston Rockets teams that preceded last season where you had Fred VanVleet and Alfred Şengün steps up in an all-star capacity. The things he's been asked to do, the shoulder of usage, the shoulder of just production that he's been asked to kind of take in on a game-by-game basis, the simplest way I could put it is every team has a number one option. All contexts are not equal, and I think Suns fans should be more understanding of that than almost any other franchise in the entire NBA because of what Devin Booker had to go through before Chris Paul came around, as well as Jay Crowder, and they shifted things with that. That being said, you look at what Jalen Green was asked to do with the Rockets last season, especially in the playoffs. You go into that series, Şengün was not getting double teamed. Who's getting double teamed? Jalen Green. Is this the first time he's seen these double teams? Yes. And to that point, I would highly suggest anybody to take a listen to Trey Murphy III talking about the shock value of getting double teams after you've never gotten them and the impact that it has on your game rhythm, let alone your decision making and how it impacts the team. That's a listening tip I'll give you. But back to Jalen Green. You apply that context and you see why he wasn't successful. Start with crediting Golden State. Yes, he has to be better, but why couldn't he be the player that he was in the regular season? They're taking away from certain pockets of the court. They're sending double teams at him that he just hadn't seen. And his rhythm's broken. You get the game where he dropped
pinstripe
game
jerseys.
That was a ton of pull-up threes. That speaks to the potential that he has as a three-point shooter, but how often is he going to actually have those opportunities when he gets double teamed to the extent that he was increasingly as that series went on?
Yeah. I think a lot of people also in chat are talking about how he's young and he has a good work ethic and that he is somebody who's also been available. So his rookie year, he played 67 games. He started 67 games. That's the lowest amount of games that he'll play in any season over his 4 years. His second year, played 76, started 76. The last 2 years, including this season, for a Houston team, again, was the 2 seed in the West this year. He played 82 games and he started 82 games. But there are some on-off numbers, Gerald, that show the team did have a better net rating when he was off the court. So he was starting, but some of the numbers do show, and we'll get to more advanced stats here after another break, but some of the numbers show that this team that was the 2 seed was not at their best when this young bucket that could score 20 points per game that's always available was on the court.
Yeah, and a lot of it was on the defensive end. You look at the on-court, off-court net ratings. I think they were about 8.1 points per 100 possessions better. When he was off the court, 7.8 of those 8.1 were on the defensive end. They were about 8 points better with him off on the defensive end. And that matters for the second-best defense in the NBA. And we'll get into some of those struggles defensively, some of the weaknesses, etc. But that's something to keep an eye on, because when we look at the construct of the Suns moving forward, I think with the amount of shooting guards that this team has, I don't know that you're going to target or find a starting caliber point guard to put next to Devin Booker and put him back in his true position at the 2. You are looking at a bunch of combo guards so that those two guys can kind of alternate on or off the ball, and we'll get into where Jalen Green fits in with all that as well. But, like, Green is an interesting fit in multiple ways, in good ways and in bad ways, when you bear that in mind, because the Suns aren't going to go get a point guard. Devin Booker's probably going to run a good amount of point, and he should, because he's the best advantage creator on the ball, like we talked about all last season. Bringing in another undersized point guard does nothing to fix that problem. So Green is going to have to dial back his on-ball usage, which was really high in Houston, by necessity, by context, and he's also going to have to play more off the ball than he has in Houston, because the ball needs to be in Booker's hands more than it needs to be his.
Yeah.
I missed
And I
that.
was going to say, that gets back to my point from yesterday, the Jordan Ott in it all. What vision does he have for the offense? What does the usage look like in terms of who has it in their hands? But also, what is he doing with both of these players to unlock them and move them off the ball to put them in position to be successful?
Yeah. And listen, there are building blocks with Jalen Green, right? And I don't want to be out on a player who is going to be 23, right? He's played 4 seasons in the NBA, and his team has consistently gotten better over those 4 years as well as he's been there. So there's good and there's bad, and we have more stats to prove it. We're talking stats on drives, shot creation, seven triples or more in shooting. Like there's some pretty interesting niche stuff that Gerald and the crew, we all want to share with you. We appreciate. Listen, we have almost 600 people in here right now on a Monday afternoon. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you are new around here, maybe you're a Jalen Green fan, right? Maybe you run Jalen Green news. Welcome to the Jalen Green stands. We hope that you're nicer than the Kevin Durant ones. Hit that like button, subscribe. We're live 5 days a week, usually at 3 p.m. Monday through Friday. This week, things are going to be a little bit different, and of course, it got juicier because the Suns have the 10th pick in the NBA draft. We're going live on the first round and the second round of the draft. On Wednesday, we'll be live at 4:45. On Thursday, we'll be live at 5. We're going to do the whole show either way. But guess what? Now it just got a whole lot juicier. Tomorrow we have a special draft guest, a guest from the Houston side of things, and more deep dives in what the Suns can do at number 10. But today we're continuing to focus on Jalen Green, and we're going to get down in the weeds. Let's talk about numbers, and let's do it right after this break. Oh, I love Wendy's. And I love Wendy's Frosties. It is known throughout the Suns community. I'm saying it. I am a strawberry swirl girl. Gerald, you are my brownie batter baddie. And Steven, I'll leave you alone. I'll leave it alone, okay? Because I don't need you shaking your head at me and ruining my vibes when I'm thinking about getting one of the new Frosty flavors from Wendy's, whether it's an all-new Frosty Swirl or an all-new Frosty Fusion. Listen, it's like Wendy's is like when OKC now has 2 first-round picks in this draft. It's like you don't need that, but you went and you did it anyway. Like the Frosties were already generational, right? Generational run for the OG Frosties, and now they're just making it better. I'm talking a caramel crunch, an Oreo brownie, and a Pop-Tart strawberry fusion. Are you kidding me? Pop-Tart strawberry in a Frosty? Or maybe you just want to get a little swirl in there, a little caramel, a little fudge, whatever it might be, whatever flavor you're craving. The odds are Wendy's has a Frosty for it. Clock in for sweet treat time anytime, including midnight or later with Wendy's all-new Frosty flavors. Refresh on a classic, Gerald, it's got to be Wendy's. At participating U.S. Wendy's, hours may vary by location. I talk about it being hot, and that means you're turning your AC on. And that means you're staying inside a lot more too. And did you know that nearly half of your energy costs come from cooling and heating? Well, I can because I look at my energy bill. With summer here, it's time to get smart about savings like I have with a smart thermostat that can help you manage your energy bills like I have. Smart thermostats can work with your APS rate plan to maximize comfort and convenience while minimizing your energy costs. If you're on an APS time of use plan, use your smartphone or device to automatically adjust the thermostat to take advantage of lower cost off-peak hours, or do what I did last night. I was laying in bed. I didn't want to get up. It was too hot. I grabbed my phone and I turned the AC down. You don't just got to do it to save money. Do it to save time as well. If you already have a smart thermostat at home, see if it's eligible to enroll in Cool Rewards. And Cool Rewards members can get smart thermostats for as low as $0. Find instant rebates, discounts, and special offers on smart thermostats, energy-efficient appliances, and more at marketplace.aps.com. You must be an APS customer. Pay shipping and taxes. Other restrictions apply. Go to marketplace.aps.com for more information. All right. I'm feeling good. I'll be honest, I'm very happy with how this conversation has turned out so far. I don't think we've skewed too far in either direction. I don't think we've gone doom and gloom. I don't think we've gone full hopium. There's good and there's bad, and I really appreciate how both of you have helped us attack this and unpack it from all angles, because really there's so much potential here, and that's why the headline says the polarizing potential of Jalen Green. That if he's best case scenario and this fit works out, I mean, we're talking about maybe Devin Booker's backcourt mate for the future, right? And there's also a chance that you can look back and say Jalen Green was a return for Kevin Durant, and the Suns screwed their franchise over, and it was the building block that eventually led to Devin Booker requesting out. There's so much that can go on with this, and that's why I think we look at some of these numbers of the highs and the lows of what Jalen Green does, Gerald.
Yeah, let's get into some specifics of his game. We're going to start with some positives, we're going to circle back to some negatives, and then we're going to end with some reasons for optimism that are based on what we saw in Houston. So, in terms of positives for Jalen Green, like Steven mentioned, the three-point volume. The fact that he was shooting about 8 threes a game, that matters to a Suns team that, since they became contenders, has not shot enough three-pointers to keep up with the pace of the modern NBA. You look at his speed and his athleticism. Those are things that the Suns, outside of pretty much Ryan Dunn for the last couple of years, have been sorely lacking. The way that he is able, with the ball in his hands, it's almost magnetically sticking to the ball because of how fast that he moves with it. He is capable of snaking through a defense. He's capable of weaving through pick and rolls quickly. When two guys are out there guarding the roll, he can split those two defenders in the blink of an eye. Those are skills that are hard to teach in the league, but he has that athleticism. We've all seen the highlights of him dunking. He is an electric dunker, especially in transition. He's super efficient on the break as well, and that matters for a Suns team that Jordan Ott was talking about. Yes, every team says they want to play faster, but the Suns want to play in transition. Devin Booker has been trying to get his team to play faster for years. Having an electric athlete who can finish on the break, I think 91st percentile in transition efficiency, that matters. The biggest thing for me, and this is the one that we're going to talk about right now, is the downhill mentality and the ability to drive. Devin Booker was kind of the only guy on the Suns that was capable of that. So last year, Jalen Green ranked 14th in total drives. I think Devin Booker was top 10. The problem here is that when Jalen Green does get into the teeth of the defense, he can finish. He does have some electric finishing moves, but the shooting around the rim, the field goal percentages were not as great as they needed to be. So what does that leave you with? That leaves you with driving and kicking. He was only 66th in assists on his drives and 10th in turnovers. So you're talking about a guy who's top 15 in drives, top 10 in turnovers on those drives, because, if you drive more, you're going to turn it over more, but only 66 in assists. So the tunnel vision for me, and I included some clips in my article, the tunnel vision is something that's going to need to get sorted, and it's going to need to improve with time, and hopefully this is an area where Devin Booker playing with him can help him.
Yep. You want to go?
Well, I kind of want to set you up, Steven, because one of the themes that I remember, because we've talked literally so much basketball, obviously, over this past year, and with this team, and we mentioned Bradley Beal specifically when he was playing and when he was an impactful factor, it was, he's one of the few players on this team that actually put some rim pressure on. And there was so much on his shoulders of, okay, we need Bradley Beal to attack the rim. Obviously, there's negatives along with it, but how much does bringing the defense in, having somebody who's so willing to get ahead of steam downhill, open up for players like Devin Booker, but also some of the other guys on this team like Ryan Dunn?
Yeah. I shout out David Nash on Twitter. He tweeted about it earlier today. Piggybacking off of what I said yesterday on the reaction pod that we had, the Breaking News pod. Having an elite rim pressure player next to Devin Booker is a template for success. Where his snagging process with Bradley Beal is availability. And you just got done talking about Jalen Green having not missed a regular season game in either of the last 2 seasons, while shouldering the brunt of a significant amount of usage on an individual basis. He doesn't have to do that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That naturally is going to put him in a better position to be successful and be more efficient with the shots that he is creating once he does get a touchdown hill. But I think also he'll see great value in having to not do all of the creation for himself by himself. Devin Booker being able to initiate is going to get a certain type of attention. If Jalen Green's on the second side or Jalen Green's a pass away to get into a dribble handoff, things like that, Jalen Green's going to have more driving lanes than he's had to navigate over the last couple of years, where he might have to make 1 or 2 moves before he gets to a driving lane that he chooses. Now, within a template for spacing and with the team that they're going to have with Phoenix, he'll just be able to go one dribble and get to where he wants to get to. And then that leads to where we're getting to now when you talk about the turnovers. Because of the teams that he's been working with, a lot of times he just has to mentally process it as, I need to go get a paint touch, and I'll figure it out after that. Now it's going to be, okay, I got a paint touch. What's the defense doing to me? And who is that in the corner? It might be Grayson Allen. He's knocking down north of 40% on wide open catch and shoot 3-point opportunities. Or even worse, it might be Devin Booker, who's never really had those type of opportunities created for himself until he spent time the last 3 seasons with Chris Paul, and then obviously even more so with Kevin Durant. So there's a domino effect that's positive and a complementary fashion for Jalen Green, and unlocking him off the ball and to do less creation for himself, but also vice versa for Devin Booker if Jalen Green is initiating and doing it for him.
Let's talk about the shot creation, because I think that's a key point, and I think a lot of it was dependent on the Rockets needing him to do that. Yeah, they needed an on-ball shot creator, and I think in a way it kind of miscasts Jalen Green.
I missed that.
He is an elite shot creator. He is not an elite shot maker. So let's look at the numbers here. We've got categories here for all different areas of the floor: overall, rim, paint, mid-range, pull-ups, 3-point pull-ups, and we've also got 3 categories. 1 is shot creation, 1 is shot quality, and 1 is shot making. So these numbers are all from the B-Ball Index.
And to kind of highlight things before we read them, if you're on audio, this might be a good visual thing, but Ayrton did something pretty cool to kind of help our video viewers here as Gerald goes through it.
Yeah, so let's give some efficiency context with a little bit of color here. So overall, rim, paint, mid-range pull-ups. Jalen Green is an elite shot creator. 96th percentile, 98th, 97th, 90th, 97th, and 98th in all those categories in shot creation. The dude can create shots for himself. And this sounds like something that should be easy for every NBA player, but
how
it's
do you
really
gauge
at the
that?
college level, a lot of these guys can create their own offense.
The amount
but at
of
an NBA level, being able to self-create for
shots
yourself
he takes,
is valuable.
just the amount
and
of
it's something
shots.
that can help Devin Booker in a half-court context, in a transition context. It's something that can take some pressure off of him, and I think for Jalen Green, it's going to be even easier because he is no longer the number 1 option that opponents are preparing for like he was in Houston. Now he's the number 2 guy. The problem, though, is that Jalen Green does not always take great shots, and he doesn't make a lot of the shots that he is taking. So if you look at shot quality, overall, 14th percentile. At the rim, 9th percentile. In the paint, 57th, so that's better. 6th from the mid-range, 57th on pull-ups, and 44th on 3-point pull-ups. So not a ton of great offense being contained, especially at the rim in terms of what he's producing.
I got a drink. Stupid
it's
ass,
kind of
bro.
all over the place. Like, it's 53rd overall, so not horrible. At the rim, it's 89th percentile, and these numbers bear in mind the degree of difficulty. But paint, mid-range pull-ups, and 3-point pull-ups, it's all 9th percentile or lower in those categories. So this is something where guy can create a lot of shots, maybe doesn't take the best shots, isn't efficient on the shots that he does take. That context is what's going to have to shift from the influence, because with Devin Booker, Jalen Green is not good enough as a scorer to kind of, okay, go be point book and I'm going to be the guy that's in the natural 2-guard slot. But he's also not good enough as a facilitator to like take the ball out of Book's hands full time, be the one running the point, dribbling it up, and letting Book be a shooting guard. So this is the key for me: is Can he be an off-ball threat? Can he be a catch-and-shoot guy to where when Book is operating, he can attack those closeouts? He can cut off the ball. He can knock down catch-and-shoot threes, which he did last year at a 41% clip, but on very, very low volume. He took a lot more pull-up threes than he did catch-and-shoot threes. Those are all the things that I'm thinking about.
Steven, let's throw these. I want to throw these back up on the screen. What stands out to you out of all this green and red and yellow? Oh, there's a ton of all of it.
Yo.
What's the number one thing that pops into your mind?
Well, if we're talking about looking at him through the lens of development, you can't. It's a lot harder for you to get to a point where you can get the creation that he gets to the elite status that he has. It's a lot harder to get there if you don't already have it. Having that as a foundation, you can build into your efficiency. You can build into the quality of shots in terms of discernment of what shots you're taking and in what situations you're taking it in. Example I'm thinking of, if he gets a drive, do you have to go all the way to the rim this time? Mm-hmm. Can you pull up to a midi, kiss it off the glass, DeMar DeRozan style, Kevin Durant style,
Devin Booker style? Yeah.
Like, there's little discernment things that come with maturing as you watch more film and you have more nuanced coaches' perspectives in your ear, and they're disciplining you within that, which leads to one of the overarching questions I have for him. And it's going to take game film and multiple games to kind of assess it, and it's going to take some unlearning and relearning for him. I imagine Jordan Knott looks at Jalen Green as a positive project, and I mean that complimentary. Mm-hmm. I have a way that a vision where I can streamline your successful creation, but put multipliers on the quality of shots that you're generating for yourself and others, and the efficiency of the shots in terms of your make and miss ratio. To that point, I believe his shot profile is going to shift positively for him. And this goes back to what I was talking to with Houston. He's asked to do a lot. He had to take pull-up threes. He had to, because they just didn't have many other ways to create offense in the half court in particular. Because he's with Devin Booker now, he doesn't have to take 8 a game. Yeah. What if he cuts that down to 6 or 5? Mm-hmm. And that leads to more middies, or that leads to more attempts at the free throw line because of the pressure he puts on the rim and how defense has to collapse on him. There is is a puzzle piece, if I can put it as condensed as possible. He's a puzzle piece next to Devin Booker. And I feel like in Jordan Ott's system especially, he's going to be one of the main puzzle pieces, especially if we continue to look at it from what Ott and company did with Cleveland last season.
I don't think there's any hiding the fact that this is a risk, right? Like you're gambling on Jalen Green. And I said this, like, one of Brian Gregory's first move as a GM is putting part of his reputation in the hands of Jalen Green, and like Godspeed to him, right? Like, would I have made that decision? I don't know. Do I think he was basically kind of forced into that decision? Yes. This is a massive, massive, massive project for Jordan Ott. To me, this is like, hey, we believe in Jordan Ott. We hired this guy. We think player development-wise, he's done really well. Flex made the comparison yesterday of the Cavaliers having Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland. Now, I push back on that and saying, well, Darius Garland is more of a pass-first guard, and Donovan Mitchell is more of a scorer. Plus, defensively, they have two of the best interior defenders and the best defender in the NBA last season per the voting in Defensive Player of the Year, Evan Mobley. So it's a little bit differently, but with the tidbit that Shane Young shared with us, who covers the NBA over at Forbes last week, which feels like 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. But last week when he was on the show, Gerald, of Donovan Mitchell saying that Jordan Ott is constantly sending European plays, NBA plays, college plays, whatever it is, to his team to say, can we develop this? Does that ease, and I know I'm not asking you to say that Jordan Ott's going to be a great coach, because we just don't know. Mm-hmm. But in theory, does that ease your worry about this risk a little bit?
Definitely, and I think one thing that stood out to me during his introductory press conference, especially in conjunction now with his Jalen Green acquisition, is that, you know, they're going to lean into the cutting that we saw with the Cleveland Cavaliers, something that we didn't see as much from the Suns. They're going to lean into motion and movement. Jalen Green's fast as hell, and he only ranked in the 55th percentile in cuts per 75 possessions last year because, again, the context of the offense that he was in and what the Rockets specifically needed him to do, his high usage of being on the ball. I think he was 96th percentile for the Rockets in terms of on-ball actions, his usage in those plays. That's not going to be the case in Phoenix, and because he's quick, because he's athletic, because of all the attention that Devin Booker commands, that cutting is something that Ott should lean into and should unleash him in a certain sense.
I mean, this is fascinating. I'm loving this conversation as a Suns fan. Obviously, being up here, I hope you are all enjoying it as well. 540 of you in here on a Monday afternoon. If you are watching on television, thank you so much for watching us. I want to remind you the party always continues over at GoPHNX.com, which means it's time for overtime right here on PHNX Suns. And of course, if you're other people over at GoPHNX.com, you can check out Gerald's article. You can check out all the podcasts, all the mini pods that we've done, all in one convenient location. Plus, you can check out even more right here on PHNX Sports. Thank you to all of you that have sent in your super chats as well. We will get to your super chats here in a second. I've just been so enamored with this conversation. Like, it's genuinely fascinating to me. And to me, like, as much as we're in this space, I'm also a consumer of what goes on in this space, especially with the Phoenix Suns. Like, there's so much of my life is this, and it really just does feel like there's been not a lot.
He can put up big numbers, which is more impressive. Olenix checked in for Toronto.
You saw that for the case? Good, cause I'm getting notation. I'll be there for you, I'll be there for you, I'll be just don't know. Say you don't tell, you just want
It's 199. Trae Young third, 190. Steph Curry, 180. Jalen Green was the unexpected number 5 in the NBA in this category, which is something that's going to have to change in Phoenix. Like, it's just, you just can't have Jalen Green dribbling 7+ times and launching threes, especially if he's a 35% shooter. But I do think that will change. I don't think a movement-based, motion-based offense under Jordan Ott is going to allow room for that type of thing. I don't think having Devin Booker in the same backcourt is going to allow for that type of thing. I don't think Jalen Green even necessarily needs to or wants to do that if he's in the right context. So this is something that's kind of indicative of the mental shift that he's going to have to undergo in terms of learning to play more off the ball, of not having to force things on offense, of having to, launch a bunch of threes and get to the mid-range and take all these bad shots. I'm optimistic about what they're going to be able to get out of him if they can cut down on things like that.
Steven, I have a very specific question for you, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but,
I love to get from
Okay.
What the hell?
What you mean?
Jalen Green is not the first player to
Why
go
do you
from a
shoot that?
situation where he's being asked to do a lot
Is he trolling?
to likely being asked to do a little bit less. And we've seen some of the deficiencies and some of the results of what he's able to do. How important is it for a player that's this young to kind of be thrown into the fire the way that he has, to have the experience of shooting these pull-ups off 7+ dribbles, even if the results isn't there, to have the experience of the double teams thrown at him and all the stuff he's had to go through in Houston? How much can that help him when he's now being put in a position where his role will most likely be a little bit more simplified going forward?
It's everything. It's literally everything.
Why am I still
because
watching this show?
his coaching staff that's inherited him now.
Bro, I just
ample
like listening to them,
film
bro.
From his career best season that was inevitably followed by his first playoff showing, which was inevitably followed by the lowest point of his NBA career. All in one season.
These motherfuckers
There's
just
so
made
much
me
film
a
they can go
fucking
through
Sun
last season
supporter,
and point
bro.
at.
Like,
You can do this better. Our system is going to benefit you significantly better than Houston did because we have X player here. You have Devin Booker at the top
should
of
have
our
did
roster.
that last night,
There's
Ben.
so
Wait,
much
you did.
trickle-down domino effect that's going to come from that. All putting him in a position to be as good as he can be, but everything lies in how disciplined is he going to be in the unlearning of bad habits that got established because of the ways that he had to operate for these teams each of the last 2 seasons. There's a lot of unlearning that's going to have to take place, and he has to be able to, he has to have the ability to take that in and then apply it in real time. And for a Suns team that's looking to make the playoffs next season, he might be the biggest X factor in that, because if they get the most out of him, if he's an all-star, borderline all-star level guard next season, that's a team that can be no worse than 6 seed. And if he's significantly less than that, that's a team that can be in the same situation that they were in this past season and missing the play.
And Gerald, I think that what is going to help in Jalen Green is the fact that there aren't massive expectations on this team. And I think that there will be some Suns fans who probably overreact to the first month or two of him playing here, but
Always.
I think he has this runway, and whether or not he gets better with it or not, I'm not going to fully predict. I'm still kind of walking the line here. He's going to have the runway to improve and correct these things that are so clearly wrong. And I do think that if by the end of this season, or if we're going into next season, we're having these same conversations, then I'm not walking the line anymore. I'm more so into the negative. But the opportunity is there for him to take that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Canada.
Especially like we've been talking about,
Canada.
in system, in-off system, playing next
Look
to
at
Devin
all
Booker,
those
learning
Canadians.
from Devin Booker. Like we talked about the speed and athleticism that he has, which is something that Book doesn't really have. Book could give him a lot of tips on how to utilize that
Look
speed
at all
instead
those
of just
Canadians.
100% all the time. He learned
But
a
they
lot
got a
of that
squad.
for
They don't
himself.
have
He learned a lot
no
of that
bigs, but they got a
in terms
squad.
of being able to get to his spots. If Jalen Green can do that and be maybe a little bit more efficient, a little bit more
So I'm not in the
composed in those
three-point contest.
spots
All
instead
right.
of go, get my shot, shoot it, that type of thing, I think that could help him a lot. Defense for me is still a concern. He doesn't check out as a guy that creates a lot of deflections or turnovers. He doesn't check out as a great defender. He probably learned a lot in Udoka's number 2 defense, which will help. Yeah, I didn't have a choice. But I think that's going to be one of the things is like, okay, if he takes a lot of shots but is not efficient, if he is not a great facilitator, and if he doesn't defend well, then he's going to be a bad fit for Devin Booker. That is my fear. But if he can do one or two of those things just at a better level than he showed last season, you're looking at a situation where this team is going to be scrappier than I think people expected.
I think he's going to be as well situated as he's ever been in his career going into this season with the Suns because of the system implemented, the principles in the system implemented by Jordan, not first and foremost. How him and his coaching staff are going to hold him accountable to the disciplines that we've spoken to off the stats that we provided, off of the moments that I've spoken to that crept up on them last season. And then the last, but arguably the biggest point in it is playing next to Devin Booker.
Mm-hmm.
The attention Devin Booker gets, the relatability that Devin Booker has to Jalen Green, having been a player in those similar situations before, those things are invaluable, honestly. And I think that Jalen's going to greatly benefit from this Suns team, timing-wise, with where he is in his career.
I truly hope so. We do have some super chats we'll get to, not really any of them specifically related to what we're talking about right now, so let's just go ahead and put a bow on what I think actually might be my favorite basketball conversation that the three of us have ever had, right? As much as I'm not super high on the return right now, I'm really, really fascinated by all these little bits and pieces. And so if you're just joining us, make sure you check out the whole show.
Can I give a disclaimer before we move on? Because I feel like I've already seen some comments in the chats. Like, none of this is personal, and I hope that Jalen Green proves me wrong in terms of the doubts that I have about him. This is just bringing up numbers and stats and what we have seen and trying to evaluate a player. Like,
I got out there.
I root for 99% of the people that come through the NBA to succeed. Who's the 1%?
You're not
gonna
doing
get
that.
it.
You're not doing that.
Come on!
Rhymes with Korai, but Korai swims.
This man hates
I don't.
Shaden Sharp.
Oh no! Oh no! But yeah, I just wanted to get that out there because I feel like when you criticize a player, there's always people in the chat saying, "Here." I don't feel any one way about it, man. I'm telling you what I see in the stats are. That's the long and short of it.
It's criticism with context, man.
Yeah.
It's one thing if you say, "Oh my God, this dude sucks," and there's a period right after that.
It's
And
never
that's saying
personal.
that he hasn't shown to be good in this area, and it's because of X, Y, Z, and A, B, C.
Yes.
That's the difference between. I'll say that's the separator for us here at PHNX.
Absolutely.
Yeah, cut that
He
short there.
sucks. No, I'm kidding.
Mario Bros. The only guy Joe hates is Igor Demon.
It's Yegor.
Oh,
Thank you very
Yegor.
much.
See, I must
hater.
I must hate him.
Bitch, don't fucking book with me, bitch.
I want to talk you into it the same way I'm kind of getting talked to James Green. Listen, my final thoughts on this are I still stand by the fact that I did not want a shooting guard as the main piece in return for Kevin Durant. I think that is something that if you could have avoided that, which the more reporting comes out, it feels like the Suns could not have avoided that I would have preferred. Gerald, you and I tiered these assets, and Jalen Green was at the literal bottom of all the assets we've talked about.
What do you have?
But I keep an open mind, and sometimes, reality sets in. You start to look at what the path could be for this team going forward. I'm not confident that this path works out by any stretch of the means at all. I think that there is serious chance that this turns into a catastrophic failure. Genuinely. Like, there's a chance that you look back at this trade and it just digs the Suns deeper into the hole that they got themselves in. They could not have Jalen Green develop in the way we've talked about today and fix the problems that we need him to fix. Dylan Brooks can maybe fall down and off of a shooting cliff, right? Like, he can't keep hitting threes and he gets older even though he's almost 30. Maybe they whiff on number 10, right? The draft is sort of a crapshoot. Like, there are so many different ways that this could end up being awful. But I also am now starting to see the vision of how this could potentially work out. They're going to have to walk this fine line. Jalen Green's going to have to develop. Jordan Ott's going to have to put a system around him. And Brian Gregory is going to have to build the right team. That's a lot of ifs, but these are things that are possible. So I'm excited to see what comes next for this team. Of course, the draft is that big next step that we'll be covering here, and what other free agency moves happen, if there's anything else added on to this trade. So do we have anything else that we want to speak on with Jalen Green before we get to Super Chats?
Last thing I'll say, I didn't really talk about him on defense. I don't feel like he's a bad on-ball defender. He leaves something to be desired there, don't get me wrong, but I don't feel like he's like a below average on-ball defender. I think with most young players, and I did not exclude Devin Booker when he was younger, and it creeps up on him now to this day. It's off the ball. How often are you ball watching and you lose where your assignment is and you're able to get back there and fix it?
Facts. Book does that a lot.
Like that, I feel like it's discipline, but it's also something that's not different from any other 23-year-old that's walked into the NBA, especially when their shoulders are built on their entire offense in multiple contexts.
I like Jason, who's a Rockets fan that we've kept around here in chat. He said multiple
Steve,
times
you gotta
that
chill,
we
bro.
Stop being reasonable. No.
All right, Jason.
Reasonable and entertaining. That might be the tagline to the show. Okay, y'all sound off in the chat. Continue to let us know what you think. Let's read your super chats and get out of here on a Monday afternoon.
KD,
right.
get
Let's
the
start
fuck
at
on,
the very
bro.
top with Trevor. Thank you, Trevor. 199 says Carter Bryant to the Suns. 6'8", plays D and can shoot. If Carter Bryant or Kevin Malawak are there at 10, I will personally sprint to New York
100%.
and draft them.
Malawak
first.
That will be a live show.
Okay, Malawak first. Malawak first. Bryant second. I don't think either of them are there at 10.
That'll be a live show, right?
Yeah, I will be holding my phone running.
Paul Pierce, though.
Dude, I would get like halfway down there and I'd
That's
be
what
like,
you're doing?
Too Mazda.
At least Paul was like a city or two away.
Don't say a word, brother.
You got the whole back, my
I'm
dog.
running.
Yeah,
You gotta run through the mountains.
I don't think Malawak would be there. I think Carter Bryant could be there.
Yeah, I think Brian will be there, but I'm curious what the Suns value. Brian Gregory in particular, how does he value?
I don't think either of those players get back past Toronto at 9. They need a young center to take over from Pirtle
Yeah, with
after
Miguelacci,
he's done his
Mr.
age, and you know that Masai Ujiri loves his developmental wings.
Yeah, you've been at the saga, digga.
Okay, Marwin with a $5 super chat says Windhorst reported that Durant manipulated value to make sure Houston got him, and Houston helped him do so. If so, Durant
It's
is
too
trash.
Mazda.
Okay, I know you guys
Taking
recorded
into
it
the chain
on
too
Thursday.
Mazda.
Yes. Let me get my 2 cents.
They calling
Wait,
me
I
that
don't-
because of why
I don't-
too
did
Mazda.
Windhorst ever used that word
Okay.
manipulated?
Oh,
Because I feel
yeah,
like
the
that's what the
one-way
aggregated
model.
word was. But it felt like what Windhorst was describing was that a couple of destinations were laid before Kevin Durant. He didn't want to go to them. He exercised his right to voice his opinion on that, and then he wound up in Houston. Like, I don't like that word manipulation when he's
Now-
just doing what was his right. If the Suns are going to work with him on a trade, he's just doing
Mr.
what the Suns are
Mazda,
willing.
Mr. Mazda,
he's taking
Mr.
the leeway they're
Mazda.
giving him.
Windhorst did say last week that he was depressing the trade market, but Steven and I did talk about this. Like, that is his right as a player, and I also want to pass along that during the show, Gambo has said that report is not true. That Kevin Durant and the Rockets worked together to collude and lower the value.
Right.
The Rockets had an offer at the trade deadline. The Rockets had an offer now. The Suns ended up taking what they think was the best offer for a team that Kevin Durant was willing to go to. Flex shared last night that there was what he believes, in his opinion, to be a better offer on the table for the Suns, but that for other reasons besides what the Suns wanted to do, and you can imply whatever you want from there, income tax, Kevin Durant did not go to that team for specific reasons, and it was not because the Suns did not want to send him there. So at the end of the day, I do believe the Suns got the best possible package that they could get in return. I do not think that – I think the word manipulated is doing a lot of heavy lifting there, and I understand why Suns fans might feel that way if they don't like the return. So I don't think that that's what Wendy was saying. I listened to the entirety of that clip, and I did not walk away with that whatsoever. We did more than the mini pod hitting your feeds later tonight. A $2 super chat from our friend B. Calm C. Clearly, who reunited with Flex last night, says, we should put a baby on the court for Ant, you bum. Not touching that one. Sebis, sorry, let me know how to pronounce your name in the chat. I want to make sure I get that right. $4.99, thank you so much, said, how are they going to move Beal's colossal contract without pretty major draft pick?
Great question, no idea.
No idea. I don't know if 5 second rounds is enough to get off Bradley Beal. I don't know. Maybe a team can talk themselves into it. I'm just not sure. But do you have any thoughts on that, Steven?
Yeah, we might find out later on this week.
Oh, God, I hope so. B. Comsey clearly is back. The $2 super chat says, Jalen Green got a hairline and cake. Sorry, Katie.
I have not looked at his cake over replacement player.
Cake over replacement.
I'm going to have to dive deeper into the numbers.
Check in for the newest Die Hard article from Gerald. Jeff with a $4.99 chat says, I think we have to see this roster closer to camp. Do you think this means we're going back to point guard?
At least part-time.
Yeah.
At least part-time. I think the Suns will target a point guard, maybe a starting caliber one, maybe a backup one, but I think that'll be in free agency or maybe with one of their later picks. And I think when you make a trade for Jalen Green, when you already have Bradley Beal and Grayson Allen on the roster, you're going to naturally have to lean into point book because there's no way we're bringing another undersized point guard into the mix again.
Yep. The one asset the Suns do have is shooting.
Yeah.
And any team that's contending or any team that exists wants more shooting.
Mm-hmm. Be calm, see clear with another super chat, $5, quoting a wonderful poet of our generation. Says, Calabasas took your girl and your pride in front of me. Her utopia had moved up the street and her lip gloss is popping. She ain't even need you to eat. Pusha T. On that note,
shout out.
Ted in the chat asks, is Colin Gillespie returning? You definitely want to check out the podcast that I recorded with Flex. We talked about Gillespie Bowl. We talked about a ton of draft prospects and who he likes in this year's draft. We're going to try to get Flex on again later this week. We have a really fun show for you planning tomorrow. Zeke asked, any draft video coming before the draft? Tune in tomorrow. We have a special guest for draft breakdowns, and we have a guest from the Houston side of things to look at the Kevin Durant trade from their lens, and we'll have some more breakdown shorts and whatnot on some potential prospects the Suns can select. So, yes, we'll have you covered with the draft, and now that the Suns have the number 10 pick in the draft.
That's
plus,
off.
on Wednesday, we'll be going live at 4:45, 15 minutes before the draft is scheduled to start to get ready for that first round, and then Thursday we'll also be live at 5, right as the second round starts, as the Suns have a couple picks in the second round. So we have you covered with everything. We had you wall-to-wall coverage on the KD trade. Now we've got you on the draft. After that, Summer League, free agency, trades, whatever else happens next, you know that there's only one place for you to go, and that's right here on PHNX Sports, and that's right here with PHNX Suns. You can follow us at PHNX_Suns on Twitter and on Instagram to get the latest updates and news on whatever's going on, plus some funny jokes thrown in there as well. We want to give a massive, massive thank you and shout out to our wonderful producer behind the Mac, the Freckled Mamba, Ayrton, who not only has been awesome with just handling his first 2 weeks on the job during a KD trade, hopping on the breaking news pod, cooking up some fire graphics from scratch for today's show. He's just been absolutely killing him. You can fuck killing it, not him.
That's crazy.
At Freckled Mamba on socials. We tag him in all of our show tweets, so you can easily find him there if you can't find him on the search. But just want to give him a big shout out because he's put in a massive amount of work behind the scenes, and so are these guys. You can follow him at Steven, don't call him Steve, Steven PG3 on Twitter. That's Steven with a PH. You can follow Gerald at Gerald Borgay to get the latest from his articles, his breakdowns, and everything else. Maybe even a cute picture of Goku, if you would like that as well. I think the streets need one of those, Gerald. It's been a minute. Too much negativity on the timeline. I need to see my godchild, Gerald.
Okay.
All right, he said control of this right there.
He's like, it's pity, dude. What are you doing? And you can follow me at ERIKRUBY. We're going to workshop and do a better, more cohesive cold open tomorrow, so don't miss that.
Yo, City like the mayor.
beautiful basketball. That's just beautiful basketball. Remember? Motherfucker. Remember? Hold on. I'm big here. And don't you ever get it fucked up. Fucking never loved us. Man, motherfucker never loved us. My worst behavior. Motherfucker never loved us. Never loved us. Worst behavior. Hold up. Who's that? Tell me who got stolen. Tell me who got the new job. Who choose got right? Tell me who know what I'm doing. Tell me like a pie. Same old pen. Drag, you know you gotta change it. Then we put them in the grave. Right, well, the grave was they open the mail. There the chair. Look to the house. It goes for the net. Look to the Mexican crib. I saw you gonna be some reading. What you playing with it left? Oh, wherever side. It looks like a resort side. Boy, I'm missing money like my last name more than her. Fuck you, bitch, I'm more than her. I'm motherfucking see that me more than five. I think you take the Acura before I be go and shoot the grass you up from one side. I be able to be immortalized. Back and forth beyond the borderline. I hate to do something, but I gotta do the overtime. Going all the times, even in point times. Even if you coming back on my worst behavior. You know? Remember? Motherfucker. Remember? Worst behavior. Hold up. Hold my phone. You just never want to hear us. Yeah. Remember? Worst behavior.
Eating something, bro. Kill your. Where's Tide? Is Tide coming back?
See, that's that shit I'm talking about. He always do the Brampton shit, but he never do like the other shit. You know what I'm saying? I'll never step foot in Brampton again.
On today's show, reports of how Kevin Durant forced the Suns' hand in trade negotiations with the Rockets, and KD possibly willing to take less than the max on his extension, and how that helps the Rockets with their salary cap flexibility moving forward.
God.
It's all coming up right here at Locked On Rockets.
This is Mission Control, Houston. Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What's up, and welcome to another edition of Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. As always, I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, native Houstonian and credentialed media member. I'm also the host of Locked On NBA Thursdays. Be sure to follow along wherever you listen to your podcasts, or on YouTube, just search Locked On Rockets, where the best way you can help us grow our show is to listen every single day on a podcast platform of your choosing, and then like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. Now, today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. And as always, thanks so much for making Locked On Rockets part of your day every single day, whether it's on your way to work, on your lunch break, in the gym. Thank you so much for being an everydayer. On today's show, more Kevin Durant talk. It's not going away anytime soon. There's going to be a lot of Kevin Durant talk in the coming days and weeks here on our show.
Slow down.
Later on, we will talk a little bit about some of the specifics on the second-round picks that the Rockets gave up and how they might actually try to get creative with second-round picks in this year's NBA draft due to some of the salary cap ramifications that they're going to be dealing with a little bit further down the line, as well as reporting on Fred VanVleet's possible contract renegotiation. And then we're going to be getting into a couple bits of reporting from Brian Windhorst and Shams Charania, the first of which about how Kevin Durant forced the Phoenix Suns' hand in these trade negotiations with the Rockets, and then also that KD might be willing to take less than his maximum available salary in an extension with the Rockets, and how that really helps Houston with their salary cap gymnastics moving forward. So let's start with the bit of reporting by Brian Windhorst. Let's run that back really quick. I just have the audio. I can't play the video because they run like highlight clips during ESPN. So here's the audio of Brian Windhorst talking about the KD situation.
For Houston, we don't have a problem. Actually, we're the opposite of a problem.
So last summer, the Rockets made it a very interesting trade, a trade we've never seen before. They traded some of the picks that they owned from the Nets back to Brooklyn, which cleared the way for them to tank, which they did this year. They got the 8th pick. And they got picks of the Suns. They got two picks and a swap. And as soon as that happened, people said, I think they're trying to get Kevin Durant. And all year long, the Rockets said, not really. We're not, we love Kevin Durant. He's in his mid-30s. We got this team in the 20s. We're not really going for him. And some people thought, it's because they really want Devin Booker. I believed Rafael Stone when he said this. By the way, he said this publicly. He said it privately, too. He said it publicly. Because I believe that he wanted to have his young team grow. But something happened in the last few weeks. One, you're dead on. Ime Udoka, you had him in Brooklyn. Rael Ivy's on the staff. He was his teammate at Texas. He wanted him. He went to ownership and said, and front office and said, so we can Kevin Durant get him. The other thing was they couldn't say no to the price. The price was just so low they just couldn't say no. It's meant to say, look what they still have on their roster. So they now have optionality. They can say, let's keep letting Amen Thompson develop. Let's keep letting Jabari Smith. By the way, Tari Eason, they love Tari Eason there. He could be the guy who replaces Dillon Brooks as that key defender. So now they can get Kevin Durant, get themselves better, and still have these pieces that they can keep. So the Rockets had this happen because Kevin Durant controlled this process. Last winter, the Warriors were ready to trade for him. And he said, I don't want to go there. So he backed off. Last week, the Timberwolves were on the verge of trading for him.
I don't want to go there.
I don't want to go there. And Ant Edwards could have tried to talk him into it. He did not. He said, it's not my place. Baby, you do what you do. And so the price came down, the Rockets moved in. That's how you elevate yourself as a team. You buy low, and you have a great opportunity.
What the fuck, bro?
So a couple things to take away from this. First and foremost is that Kevin Durant very much controlled his destiny in these trade discussions by basically telling the Suns, hey, I don't want to go here, I don't want to go here, narrowing down the list of teams so finely that it eventually it went down to just the Spurs, the Rockets, and the Miami Heat. However, from the other reporting that's kind of come out about this, it doesn't really feel like the Spurs were ever a serious threat to land Kevin Durant. More that the offers were just kind of like, lukewarm interest there if possible. So it really kind of boiled down to the Rockets and the Heat. And with the Heat so unwilling to part with some of the specific players that the Suns were interested in, as well as the reports that they didn't even want to let go of this year's first-round draft pick, it really boiled down to, hey, Kevin Durant stalled out long enough and was able to force the Suns' hand into trading him to the Rockets. And Rafael Stone didn't blink at any point when the Suns were trying to negotiate, trying to ask for more, trying to ask for Jabari Smith Jr. or one of the 2 future Suns picks. He didn't blink. Stared them straight in the face and got the deal done for just Jalen Green, Dillon Brooks, and the 10th overall selection. And honestly, the first offer that was probably on the table from the Rockets was probably something more akin to the Jalen Green salary filler and 10th overall pick offer that we've discussed on the show. And then ultimately the Suns come back, they counter with, hey, we want Jabari, we want one of those future picks.
Nice.
And then, through the negotiating, they kind of settled somewhere in the middle, and they were like, all right, fine. We'll include Dillon Brooks, but you're not getting Jabari, you're not getting Tar, you're not getting Reed, and you're definitely not getting any of those future picks. And that was just the best offer that the Suns could do. Honestly, the Rockets just took them out to the woodshed, like just completely fleeced the Suns in this deal for KD. So KD, very much a strong voice in this entire saga, ultimately dictating where he landed. And when you saw the live reaction, if you haven't seen it, it's all over social media, go check it out. But that live reaction of KD at Fanatics Fest, like reacting, not him on the stage reacting to the news, but like the behind the scenes of him, like, dapping up, who's it, Rich Kleiman? I can't remember who it was, his agent, somebody. And just being so excited about the news. And then he goes on, there's the video that's circulated on social media where he throws up the H and he's just really excited and happy. KD wanted to be here in Houston. And we started looking at this and speculating this all the way back during the regular season, around the trade deadline, when these reports initially surfaced that the Rockets might have been kicking the tires on a KD trade. And especially in the aftermath of that game in Houston where KD completely popped off and was unguardable, but the Rockets still managed to win. KD was so complimentary of all the Rockets' young players, of what Ime Udoka has created here in Houston. We knew about their prior relationship, the fact that Ime has coached KD in Brooklyn at USA Basketball, the other existing relationships that KD has with this organization, with going all the way back to, with Royale Ivy as a teammate, another UT alum as well. DJ Augustine, another former UT alum who reportedly just recently joined the Houston Rockets front office, although that's not fully confirmed yet, just a report out there. Former teammate Jeff Green, former teammate Steven Adams. And the biggest takeaway here is that Ime Udoka wanted this. Ime Udoka pushed for this. Ime Udoka wanted Kevin Durant in Houston, and so Ime Udoka got what he wanted. Ime Udoka has a lot of weight to throw around in this Rockets organization and the decision-making and the direction of this organization, and it kind of feels like this might be not necessarily like a turning of the tides, but there was 2 years there, right, where they really tried to make it work with the young guys, where they really did give Jalen Green an ample opportunity to try and flourish and show that he could be the 1A scorer that they needed him to be. And that 2 years was enough for Ime Udoka to look at the situation, to evaluate his playoff performance, to nod off my question to Rafael Stone about Jalen Green's on-off numbers, and to then, essentially cut bait and say, you know what? Time to move on. Go get me KD so that we can try to win a title here in Houston right now. So Ime Udoka really throwing his weight around, making this situation happen is what it sounds like. Coming up, want to get into the reporting from Shams Charania that Kevin Durant might be willing to take less than the max on his possible extension with the Houston Rockets and how that helps them with their salary cap logistics moving forward. We're going to get there in just one moment. First, today's episode is brought to you by Olipop. Look, Olipop is a new kind of soda made for people who love the classic taste of soda but want something that actually supports their health. With just 2 to 5 grams of sugar and 9 grams of prebiotic fiber in every can, Olipop is reimagining soda in a way that's better for your gut. Traditional sodas are loaded with sugar, like 39 grams in a regular Coke or 44 grams in an orange Fanta. Olipop flips that script with just a fraction of the sugar, no artificial sweeteners, and gut-friendly ingredients like OliSmart, a blend shown to support digestive and overall health. It's soda that tastes like the real thing, but actually does something good for your body. Look, my entire life, I've been a soda fiend, just chugging like Dr. Peppers and Cokes, left, right, and center. So when I was first introduced to Olipop, I was a little skeptical. Then I tried it, and I was like, wow, this is actually really good. And knowing that it's good for my body, that it has 1/3 of my daily fiber intake in each can, is enough of the push that I need to be able to make the switch.
Oh my
and
God.
Not to mention all the incredible flavors that they have. Apple, grape, the vintage cola is probably my go-to, honestly, of all their flavors. But right now in front of me, I've got the, what am I sipping on right now? The classic root beer flavor. This one's really solid. Great. Tastes like regular root beer. It's honestly awesome. You can check out Olipop yourself. Get yourself a free can of Olipop. Just buy any 2 cans in store, and they'll reimburse you for 1. Head to drinkolipop.com/LockedOnNBA to claim your free can and find Olipop near you. That's drinkolipop.com/LockedOnNBA.
Head on a swivel. I can shoot, but I can never dribble. The fuck is that?
And continuing on, you're at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. Let's get to our next little bit of reporting here from Shams Charania, who was on the Pat McAfee show, basically, sharing the fact that Kevin Durant wants to be in Houston long term and may be willing to actually sacrifice some money in order to make that a reality.
Honestly, the jewel of all this was the number 10 overall pick in the draft. And you talk about, why now? Why does this trade happen now? The trade happened now because the NBA draft is 2 days away. The Suns have to get moving on getting draft prospects, getting intel in the facility. So that's really the next step for the Suns. So I think the totality of the deal from the Rockets' perspective just outweighed anything that anyone else could offer. And listen, Pat, at the end of the day, Kevin Durant had a lot of voice in this, and he made it clear where he wanted to go.
he made it clear where he didn't want to go. And teams heard it, the Suns heard it, and he had leverage because he had 1 year and $54 million left on his deal. And in the NBA, when you're at that caliber of player and you're on an expiring contract, you have some level of sway in a conversation. And if a team wanted to make a swing at him without his assurance or commitment, they could have, but no one did.
Okay, so is Houston going to give him an extension, or is he play this out? How's that work?
That will be a conversation. I do expect Kevin Durant, his business manager, Rich Kleiman, and the Rockets to have those formal discussions on an extension. I don't know if it'll be this week, but I expect at some point in July, in August, that's a conversation that will happen. And listen, Kevin Durant is eligible for, I think it's a 2-year, $121 million extension. Like, will it be all of that? Will it be a part of that? Like, it would not surprise me to see how, Kevin Durant is approaching this. This is a partnership. I think there's a goal in mind here to end his career in Houston on both sides, on both fronts. And how can both sides be best suited to do that in a way? Pat, in the NBA now, we're throwing words like second apron, first apron. I mean, what the NBA is dealing with right now, what teams are dealing with, is essentially some version of a hard cap. And so, how can he make it easy on Houston? How can Houston do right by him? I think that will be a conversation at some point this offseason.
Congrats to KD. He's 37, right? Everybody talking about his age. He's 37 years old in basketball, and he's still got $120 million waiting on him.
2 years.
For 2 years if he wants it. Way to go, KD. You earned it, buddy.
You know who he is. Y'all know who he is.
Adrian Grace.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kevin Durant.
And he goes to a team where he doesn't. He's just.
Okay, I'm done with the rest of that clip from Pat McAfee. Show him okay. I just wanted to hear what Shane's had to say. All right, so this is important. Like, honestly, this is pretty massive news. And Shams wouldn't just throw this around lightly. Like, he's not just like, yeah, maybe he'll, take less.
Shit.
No,
Jay McDaniels.
Shams shares a bit of information, a piece of intel like this, it absolutely has legs. And so I think it's really important to note this here because the Rockets are certainly, after acquiring Kevin Durant, and honestly, the Rockets would have been in this position without acquiring Kevin Durant because this is the issue with Alperen Sengun and Jalen Green's rookie scale extension.
I need that double-double like Angel Reese.
They're being paid big boy bucks. Is the Rockets suddenly become a team, right up against or going over that first apron? And because of NBA salary cap gymnastics and all the restrictions and stuff that get applied to teams that go over the first apron or then go into the luxury tax or break over the second apron, like all the restrictions that are currently placed on these teams, it can become really difficult to field a high-level competitive roster if you are bleeding money left and right trying to pay big bucks to maybe an aging superstar like Kevin Durant. So the idea that he might be willing to sacrifice a little bit, not in the immediate here and now, obviously, because there's nothing he can do about the 54.7 on this current contract. Like, that's set in stone. But if he's willing to ink an extension for 2 or maybe 3 years, and it clocks in at significantly less than what his max top dollar salary would ultimately be, then that is a huge saving grace for the Rockets, who could then be able to afford and keep all of this young talent that they're currently surrounding KD with in the first place. And based on how these negotiations took place and the fact that there were other teams that were willing to take a flyer on KD, other teams that were willing, like the Minnesota Timberwolves, right, who were possibly willing to gut their team by sacrificing Gobert and DiVincenzo and
we might pop up on them at will like Suzuki, Kawasaki,
didn't want that, right?
Sushi, Saki,
this
money
isn't a
growing
situation
trees
where
like
he didn't want
Chitachi.
to, like when the Suns
They
originally
tried to get
got
spicy
him, right?
with me,
The
so
Suns had to
I wonder how
gut
they
some
gonna.
of what
That was
made
the wrong
that
person
team special
anyway.
by sacrificing Mikal Bridges and
Fuck
Cam
what y'all really
Johnson
do without
and the future draft capital in order to get KD in the first place. This is going to be the first time in these past couple teams that KD's been a part of where the teams
really
themselves don't have
kind,
to
bro.
gut their roster, their identity in order to add him to what they've already built, right? It'll be very similar to when KD went to the Warriors.
I need
and
that
the Warriors
double-double
were
like
already
Angel
the
Reese.
Warriors. They already won 73
I need that
games,
shit.
and then they added Kevin Durant to the mix without sacrificing much, if anything else, right? I think they had to jettison Andrew Bogut or something like that. Like they did some stuff to make the numbers work. But for the Rockets, if you could clock in KD at something like 3 years, $120 million, so he's making like an average annual salary of like $40 million a year instead of 2 years, $120 million extension. You know, an average annual salary of less than $20 million a year. Like, I don't know if KD's willing to sacrifice that much money at the end of the day, but it's still guaranteed money. And maybe the Rockets take a look at it and they're like, look, you know, we want to give you this extension, but, you know, 2 years from now, you're going to be turning 40. Like, we can give you 3 years and you'll still get the same amount of guaranteed money, but it's at a much lower average annual hit in order to save the Rockets those cap ramifications down the line, giving them some of that flexibility. So maybe that's a route that they ultimately go. We're going to hear more about Kevin Durant and this possible, you know, these possible extension discussions and what it's going to look like, what his long-term future is going to look like here in Houston. But the fact that Ime Udoka wanted KD as badly as he did, the fact that KD wanted Houston as badly as he did, like this was his
I got to give you a screen right
preferred
there, dog.
destination, and all signs point to the fact that this was his #1 destination all along.
You ain't just
You
shooting
can
over
sit back to
KD,
the
gang.
teams
I
of
don't
the
care
last,
if your
like,
name
6
Carmelo
months,
Anthony. I don't care if your
and
name
really identify and hone in and be like, yeah, like KD to Houston,
NBA
the writing has been on the
Youngboy.
wall for this for ages, right? Even if the Rockets were projecting
Hold
something
on, I need a
completely
hoop.
different, and they're like, yeah, we own the Suns picks, but no,
They
we're
still
not
hooping
interested
and
in
shit.
KD. Like, anybody that's talked with members of the Rockets front office, you know, knows how internally high they are, or and have been for a very long time on Kevin Durant, and they made that dream a reality. They added him. Ime Udoka was probably the final push to make it happen, to basically be like, no, go get me KD. That's who I want. That's who we need to be able to contend at the highest level. And the idea that KD wants to retire in Houston, right? The idea that this is a partnership, that KD understands that there's going to need to be some sacrifice on his end in order for this Rockets team to achieve what they ultimately want to achieve, which the reality of the situation is that at least while KD is still playing, you know, these last 2, 3, 4 years, whatever his career has as he's winding things down, the reality is the expectation for this Houston Rockets team becomes championship or bust. Like, they are in win now title contention mode. And that's a tough mode to be in, but it's also going to provide invaluable experience for the young guys to be able to play alongside Kevin Durant, to be in those high leverage situations, to have some deep playoff runs where even if the Rockets don't ultimately win a championship in these next 2 or 3 years, if they have multiple conference finals appearances, or even, you know, a couple, 1 or 2 finals appearances in these next 2 years, even if they don't escape with a title, which is the ultimate goal, all of that experience is going to be so important for Alperen Şengün, Amin Thompson, Jabari, Tari, Cam, Reed, everybody up and down the lineup, in order to be ready for the post-KD Rockets era, whatever that may look like when the time comes a little bit further down the line. So some really encouraging stuff here, and of course we'll keep you posted for all the contract negotiations and all that stuff whenever the rumors and intel start spinning around on that front. But coming up, we do have a little bit of reporting on the Rockets' situation with Fred VanVleet's contract, and that they are not fully sold on renegotiating a new deal, as well as the specifics on the second-round draft picks that are going to be given up in the Kevin Durant trade, and more. We're going to get there in just one moment.
Dumbass.
First, today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. You ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? It's really annoying when that...
Negative. I know where it went, buddy.
And final segment here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball.
Gotta be organized,
now,
buddy.
I do have to apologize because I think this info was out there, but I just wanted to get to the KD reaction pod. I didn't have it like squarely in front of me at the time. I was also still just a little bit hungover from my birthday on Saturday, so I woke up late to the KD news.
Happy birthday, D-Man.
I apologize.
Happy birthday,
But we are
D-Man.
locked in and we are covering everything now.
Happy birthday, D-Man.
The second round picks
That's how you
included in
feel?
this KD deal. Not that like second round picks
That's how
are
you feel,
a big
Steve?
deal. And again, they were probably included like after the fact when it was like, okay, you're not going to give us.
They think
you know,
they
the
was in it, but
27
they
or
was never
29
in the
pick back,
game,
like,
bro.
just-
Like, y'all was
just
never
give us
in
some
it, to
seconds
be
so that
honest.
it doesn't look as bad that we got fleeced, right? And that was probably the discussion coming from the Suns, and Stone was like, all right, here's like 5 seconds that we don't really care about. But those second-round picks from Houston are as follows. It's the Rockets' second-round pick in 2032. It's Boston's second-round pick in 2030. It's the 59th pick in this year's draft, and then 2 second-rounders in 2026 that are contingent on some swap rights and some other miscellaneous stuff. So it's hard to pin down exactly what they will be. Yeah. So 5 second-round picks. Now, what is interesting about this as a dynamic to consider for the Rockets?
You fucking dumbass.
Because of the cap logistics, and my hope is that we'll have, I say my hope, I'm trying to get a cap guru guest on the show because I understand NBA salary cap stuff to an extent, but I am by no means an expert, and I don't pretend to be. I have a working knowledge of that stuff.
But you can't get Bobby Marks.
I would like to bring in somebody who is very insightful with that stuff to give us a little bit of guidance into what the future kind of holds for the Rockets.
But you can't get Bobby Marks. You ain't ESPN. But you can't get Bobby Marks.
All right, a happy
Did you not Bobby
Sunday.
Marks?
Hope everyone's doing great out there. We are doing a Kevin Durant trade guide video live from Brooklyn, home of the NBA draft. I just arrived and my room is not ready, and it's 4:15 and I'm a little annoyed here, but that is life. News broke when I was midair, probably over Savannah, Georgia. And,
Bro, where are my sands
at? To do this video, but here we go. Not surprised that it was Houston. I thought the Rockets and the Spurs were the 2 teams that basically controlled the cards when we were talking about a Durant trade. Certainly when you have the 10th pick in the draft and you have contracts to move.
I need my Zans game.
San Antonio, number 2 was not going to be in play.
I need the Zans.
And when you line up both those deals, potentially what San Antonio could have offered, I'm not saying what they offered, whether it be Barnes and Devin Vassell contracts in that realm, the Green-Brooks package makes the most sense when you consider the 10th pick in the draft and the 5 seconds that are coming back. And we're going to talk about the semantics a little bit here. Let's talk about Durant going from Phoenix to Houston. This trade is not going to happen until July 6th. Remember,
I should have bought that shit because I'm a baller.
Calendar year flips. So now we are going to be operating within the 2025-2026. That's why you see a lot of these trades.
I should have just bought that shit because I'm a baller.
Do not happen until July 6th.
I'm a fucking baller. I should have just bought that shit.
We're going to talk about that in a minute. $54.7 million. He's going into the last year of his contract.
I should have just fucking bought that shit because I'm a fucking baller.
He can go. He can extend.
I really do this. I'm really true to this.
That is the maximum allowed.
I should have just bought it because I'm a fucking baller.
For 124. How you get that?
That's what the fuck I do. I should have just bought this shit because I'm a baller.
20% off his current salary for next year, or up to the maximum salary allowed for a player with 10 years plus of service, and that's where you're getting that. I think it's roughly around $59 million would be a year one. $59 million, and I think it's like 62 and change as far as where a Durant extension would be.
Hey,
There's some work to do as far as where they are from a salary standpoint here, because they're kind of right at that second apron-ish, a couple $1 million below. The second apron is triggered because they are aggregating contracts. They are combining salary and deal. And you look at Brooks and Green that are going out. But as we talked about it, they've got that Fred VanVleet team option, which I would say there's a chance that it gets declined, and then they re-sign him to a low number. They also have Jock Landale, $8 million non-guaranteed contract, and a $5 million team option on Aaron Holiday. So then another minimum player on a non-guaranteed contract. It's, my mind is for Nick Williams, I believe. So you've got the $16 million.
Am I stupid or dumb?
Before you wanted, if you had to touch Fred, and if you're going to touch Fred as far as declining that number, then you can certainly lower it a little bit here. We wrote about it, $30 million here. That's where Houston is looking. They don't have any draft picks going into Wednesday and Thursday night. Pick 59 also went to Phoenix along with 4 additional seconds. We'll go through them in a minute. And of course, the 10th pick in the draft here. The lineup is a little bit wonky, I would say, when you're looking at Fred and when he will likely return. Amen Thompson, KD, Jabari Smith, Alperen Sengun. You still have Steven Adams. Reed Shepard is going to be an expanded role. Tari Eason, Cam Whitmore. We would certainly like to get some more shooting off your bench here, but certainly we talked about the need for a closer, and Houston goes out and it gets a closer without touching either of the Phoenix picks in 2027 and 2029, or Jabari Smith, Amen Thompson, Tari Eason, more of their young core guys outside